I would like to tell a short story about my family. More than 90 years ago in Seattle, there was one university student. She just completed her first year at Stanford. And out of the persuasion from her parents, she took a year off and went to China for a visit. As soon as she stepped her foot on China's soil, and God touched her heart. And later on, she dedicated her entire life to serve the Chinese. And during those days, China was in great turmoils. There was civil war, famine, and diseases. And so this young American university student, with the little support from her family back in the States, she began her ministry in the southern part of China. And during those days, there were many orphans who were left on the street to die. And so she would pick these orphans up and brought them home and to feed them and to care for them. And as a result of that, many of these orphans, their lives were preserved. And under the care of this missionary, many of them later on, they came to know Jesus as a loving God. And them too became Christians as a result of that. And out of which, one or two of these orphanage young people, they dedicated themselves and to go to Bible college and equip themselves as full-time worker as well. So one of them, upon graduation from Bible college, he went to Vietnam to serve as a full-time missionary. And this orphanage boy who grew up in this orphanage, who went to Bible college and went to Vietnam, he is in fact my dad. And I was born into this family. And as I look back, now that I am working overseas in France, it is a direct result because of more than 90 years ago, someone who literally gave up her entire life. My adopted grandmother, her name was Ruth Hitchcock. She never went back to Stanford, completed her studies. Her dream was to become a successful businesswoman. But because of the love that the dedication that she had for the Chinese, she gave up her dream, gave up her studies, gave up her entire life to serve the Chinese. As a result, my dad's life was preserved. And as a result, he was touched by God's love, and he became a missionary. And as a result of that, I was born into this family. I grew up in Montreal, Canada. During university years, I was majoring in film studies. And film was my first passion. And during those years, actually, my journey was more or less, my Christian faith was more or less on a crossroad. And during those years, my faith was very much challenged by the teachings that I received at university. And as I look back, I think God is quite humorous. He would use an atheistic filmmaker to convince me to think it through about my Christian experience. And this filmmaker, actually, most of his films were made against the Christian teachings. His name was Ingmar Bergman. I watch most of his films and I analyze his films. And as a result, I was not even sure whether the God I read from the Bible that I have been praying to since I was young, he was in fact a caring God or not. And so at the end of my studies, I made myself a decision. I said I would like to know a little bit more about my faith. And so lo and behold, upon graduation, the door was open for me to go to seminary. And my desire was just to learn a little bit more about my faith. And so I went. And this is how God used that year of training, spoke to me. As I look back, I cannot help but to be amazed of how God enabled me to take this a step of faith, and to study at CTS, Canadian Theological Seminary, and later on, I spent another year and a half, completed my training, and lo and behold, another door was open for me to go back to Montreal and serve as a pastor, and then later on went to Ottawa to serve as the English pastor within the Chinese church. And after 7.5 years serving in Ottawa, and we had the opportunity to go overseas. And since '96, it has been more than 14 years. My wife and I and our 2 girls are now serving in Paris. The way I look at it, I think Europe is an exciting field. Since the beginning of the millennium, as we all know that Europe has become a major European bloc, a United States. There are more than now 27 countries that are members of the European Union, and out of which there are more than 450 million within the EU population. So we work among the Chinese community in Paris, and there is tremendous opportunity to reach out to the Chinese, and as well using the Chinese church as a launching pad to reach out to the nationals, the French people, be it the Caucasian French or the North African French. And so there are people who think that France is a difficult field. We do not want to deny that. It is not easy to plant churches in France nor in other European countries. But on the other hand, we also sense that today it is the door has been wide open. There is still great opportunity for us as we share the gospel to others, to people from all walks of life. And we see the result that people are responding to the gospel message.